I am going to get started. My name is Ryan Calkins. I'm a commissioner at the Port of Seattle, and I am thrilled to be with all of you tonight as we host this virtual event to launch Maritime High School. The group of folks you're going to hear from tonight have all been instrumental in this extraordinary project, and we're going to start tonight with a little bit of an origin story about how this project came to be. But before we get into that, I want to share just a couple of housekeeping items. The first is that the chat feature will be on so that even if you're not a panelist, you can share your questions. You'll be able to either share them directly with the host or with everyone, and so you can toggle between those two. We encourage you to share with everyone any questions you have so that everybody can see in the chat what your questions might be. We also recommend that you view the event in speaker view rather than gallery view. We will be spotlighting speakers throughout the night so that you'll have an opportunity to see from a variety of folks, and they will be spotlighted for you. And just keep in mind that everybody will be muted by the host except during the breakout rooms period of the evening, at which point everybody will have an opportunity to engage. With that, I'm going to turn it over to a dear friend of mine and somebody who has been absolutely instrumental in ensuring that this project is of the community. And that's Paulina Lopez, the executive director of the Duwamish River Cleanup Coalition. Paulina?
Thank you so much, Ryan. Good evening, everyone. My appreciation to you all for being with us this evening. It's like a dream come true. Today we're launching the Maritime High School. If we think about 2 years ago, this was just a discussion and this was just a dream that our local youth and many other people were thinking about. So my heart is really, really warm today because we are launching the Maritime High School. And when I woke up this morning, I was talking to my kids about Earth Day. And of course, we were discussing how important it is to care for our waters, for our environment. And this is an important day to be celebrating that, as well as we're celebrating recognizing the importance of having a high school that will match the caring of the environment, etc. So my name again is Paulina Lopez. I am the executive director for the Duwamish River Cleanup Coalition. I do want to acknowledge that I am in the traditional lands of the Duwamish people, and I honor all the gratitude and the land itself for where I'm sitting. So I wanted to take an opportunity to first talk a little bit about our organization, the Duwamish River Cleanup Coalition, and why are we involved with the Maritime High School. So our organization has been in existence since 2001, and we are an environmental justice grassroots nonprofit that we were starting our mission to care for our only Seattle river, the Duwamish River. So through the years, we have been making sure that we are bringing those voices that have been left out to be at the center for deciding how the cleanup of the river that is right in our corner, right in our backyards. I live myself in this neighborhood next to the river. So we have a voice and that we have a representation specifically for those who have been left out. The idea of the Maritime High School comes and it's not an idea anymore. It's a wonderful action that is happening 2 years ago when we were developing a mural in the neighborhood, and Ryan, Commissioner Calkins here, came, and we were all talking about what this mural comes and what is the meaning of the mural. So we had a lot of youth in there representing, and it was to a surprise too to him that the youth wanted to first commemorate the history of the land that we live. So there is a huge mural in there that represents the Duwamish tribe and the history, the river. But there was this huge building, and when Ryan and I were talking, he's asking me, what is the big building in here? Is that an industry? And I said, you know, this is the desires of our youth, because we have the highest percentage in Seattle of youth. And our youth has always been wondering, how come we don't have a high school in the neighborhood? How come we are not offered an opportunity to have here an education? And we do run a youth program. We have it's called the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps, where we learn environmental justice issues and where they take action. But so we wanted to match it with what this really means, and when you are talking about the environment. So when we're talking with you, Ryan, when was just this dream that our youth have, I do have to say that I never thought that we will move so fast, and my appreciation to you for moving, shaking, and bringing a bunch of stakeholders, great people to be talking. Like maybe 6 months later, we are in a room with about 200 people, and they're all talking about a possibility of a maritime high school in the Duwamish Valley. So dreams come true. We will keep pushing to make it to the standards of our youth locally here, and families will see the benefit and understanding for maritime. But it is my pleasure and my gratitude for you, Ryan, and for our partners from the Northwest Maritime Center who will be hearing next, and also from Highland School District, who was willing to come into the challenge with us, as well as our friends from the Port of Seattle, who were able to carry this on and bringing even to a commission for approval and moving it forward. So this was just a very small, very short summary of a lot of the moving and shaking that happened. But I wanted to make sure that you all that are coming with us today understand the importance of a high school in our community, and that this desire of mirroring and bringing youth of color specifically to be learning and what maritime industry is, but also getting these important jobs that soon will be getting out of the hands of many people who are retiring. So who is better to get and inherit these jobs but the people who've been living next to all these maritime industries? So that is what is so special about us. And I'm sure you have more into the story, and I would like Ryan to come and also talk from your end. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Paulina. It is part of the magic of the story of the Maritime High School so far is that, we often say it's an idea whose time has come. And I think it bears out in the story that you shared, because independently and at about the same time, I had joined the commission in 2018 and had been invited to serve as a panelist for the presentation of Aviation High School's sophomore class project. And I came away from that experience totally inspired by what 15 and 16-year-olds were doing with their education that was just above and beyond anything that I had experienced in my own high school experience 20 some years ago. Around that same time, I was in a series of conversations with maritime and industry leaders who were saying, we've got a problem. We see that our workforce is aging. We understand that certain sectors of our workforce are not diverse. They don't represent our community, but we really don't know how to go from stating the problem to addressing it. And so while the youth in the Duwamish Valley are sitting here gestating this idea for a high school in their area, the very thing that would help them solve their problems, I was being confronted by this problem in our own industry. And so then when we were able to get together and begin speaking about this, we realized there is both a need and a way to resolve that need. And so it was extraordinarily exciting for us to see how the idea kind of gestated in two places and came together. And, just a little bit of the nuts and bolts. From there, we had a whole series of conversations with dozens and dozens of educators, labor leaders, philanthropists, business and industry folks, government, all saying, hey, here, we have this idea. What do you think? And almost to a one, they said, this is a great idea. The challenge is going to be herding all the cats. You have so many different sectors that you're trying to bring together. And so we said, all right, well, let's get them all in the same room. And in September of 2019, we had a big stakeholder summit in which we got everybody together and we said, let's start to flesh out what the guiding principles for this project might be. And what is the model that would best achieve those goals. If we talked about the goals of an educational institution that would reach those furthest from educational justice, that would serve the communities that are impacted by these maritime industries, and that would begin to provide, through an environmental justice lens, an extraordinary educational model to prepare these students for careers in the broadest sense in maritime. And out of that summit, we created an advisory group that helped us draft the kind of founding document called the Changing Tide. And the core four that you're hearing from tonight, we're able to carry that forward. And I too want to say how deeply grateful I am to the leadership that you'll hear from tonight, particularly at Highline Public Schools, for taking this idea that, out of the blue was presented to them and saying, we can do this and we believe in it, and have carried it forward since early in 2020. So with that, I'm going to kick it back to Paulina to help introduce one of our most favorite guests tonight.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. And I love really what you said, centering, environmental justice and centering all the principles of serving the community that has been impacted the most by all the maritime industries. We have also been talking on how do we center equity and how do we bring abundant opportunities for education, but a good education that our kids deserve, our youth of color specifically, who have probably not been able to attend to project-based schools and to have more of this education based on STEAM. So it's been very exciting to see through the weekly meetings that we have, how the curriculum has been developed, Northwest Maritime Center bringing all that expertise in doing project-based models. And I'm super excited that today we'll be talking more about that as a learning. What does this exactly mean? Also how we are centering students into the decisions of the high school. That to me, in everything that talks about environmental justice, has to be driven by the community that is being served. So having hands-on, bringing education, bringing the voice for those students, and to even continue with the development of the high school gives me the chills and makes me excited about it. And also super grateful to have the leadership of our principal, Mr. Tremaine Holloway, who is going to be next, and who I have had the pleasure to bring to the community, who has been showing an amazing, friendly, warm heart, but also very knowledgeable on how to bring a school that is going to have all these values embedded into our community. So, Mr. Tremaine, thank you for being here with us and for taking this awesome challenge of being our principal.
Thank you so much, Paulina. And thank you also, Ryan. That was a wonderful introduction. Good evening, everyone. As mentioned earlier, my name is Tremaine Holloway. I have the privilege and honor of serving as founding principal for Maritime High School. And I'm so excited and thrilled to be with you all here today, just to share with you a little bit about the vision that we have for Maritime High School and give a little bit of overview as well. So I'm going to share my screen, so just bear with me 1 second as I prepare to share. And before we begin, I have a couple of slides here, but I actually want to do a land acknowledgement. I like to start every presentation that I give with a land acknowledgement to ensure that we are honoring the folks what this land belongs to. So I'll begin with the land acknowledgement here. We begin by acknowledging that we are on ancestral land, stewarded since time immemorial by the Salish people of the Duwamish, Green, White, Cedar, and Upper Puyallup rivers, many of these giving birth to the contemporary citizens of the Muckleshoot Indian tribe. We honor and give thanks that we are able to collectively engage in this conversation on their sacred homelands about the future of teaching and caring for our sacred children and youth. So again, my name is Tremaine Holloway. You can take time to read this if you would like to, but the main thing that I want you all to understand and realize about me is my core values. And the core values that I lead with, these 3 E's is what I like to categorize it as. I typically call myself an equity-driven leader. So equity at the forefront of every decision that I am making. That is a core value of mine. I have a commitment to excellence. So not only with academics, but also expectations of students. I expect the best from students because I want the best for them. And I also want them to have the best opportunities. So I have a commitment to excellence as well. And then the last E is entrepreneurship. And so not necessarily from the business mindset or a corporate world type of mindset, but for me, when I think about entrepreneurship, I think about the creative thinking. I think about the disruptive innovation and disruptive innovators that are out there, and how we tap into that particular energy for our students. I want to be able to let students know and understand that they are the CEOs of their life, and they have the opportunity to choose the future that they want with the decisions and the skills and tools and resources that they do have. So entrepreneurship, equity, and excellence, those are the 3 E's that I consider my core values. And you'll see those themes, those 3 things pop up in the vision and the overview for Maritime High School, which I'm really excited about to share with you tonight. So typically I've been getting this question a lot. Why Maritime? What do you think of when you think of Maritime? And typically people always, think about boats or they think about water. And yes, those 2 things are definitely the things that are come up when you think about the maritime industry for sure. But there's so much, the maritime industry, the maritime sector is so vast. This is a great depiction of what comes to mind when I think about maritime. I think about the Coast Guard. I think about underwater welding and underwater photography. I think about aquaculture, marine and ocean sciences. I think about technology now and how it's literally shifting the future, the world that we live in now. I truly believe that the next 10 years will move further into the future technology-wise than the past 100 has ever taken us. So I think about underwater RVs. I think about underwater robotics. All these pictures here are just things that come to mind when I think about maritime. And I'm sure you have tons of other pictures in your mind that you can think about when it comes to maritime as well. But I say all that to say that the maritime industry in itself, in my opinion, really is encapsulated by this phrase here. The sea can take you anywhere. It's limitless, right? So, and because it's limitless, I'm so excited to be able to give our students an opportunity, or have limitless opportunities actually. And so I think that the sea really can take you anywhere, and you can find everything that you desire to have in terms of learning and skills and experiences at the sea. So this is one of the main reasons why I am truly humbled to be able to take this on as a founding principal for Maritime High School, because it will offer our students limitless opportunities. So what learning will look like? It's really a blur between school and community. This picture here is a good visual. I'm a visual person, so I like to see pictures. I like to see diagrams and things of that nature. And this picture here is really a good depiction of what learning will look like at Maritime High School. It's really about hands-on, hearts-on, and minds-on learning. As you can see here, students are really taking ownership, taking leadership here, owning what their craft in terms of building of a structure of a boat. And you see adults also there helping and supporting and cheering them on as they are doing this task. So that's what I kind of envision and see the learning, that what it would look like. I believe I'm a strong champion for project-based learning, or what my good friend at the Northwest Maritime Center likes to call learning-based projects, because it's really true what they say. The learning actually happens throughout the projects that students are doing and collaborating on. So it's really blurring that school, community, the industry partners. How do we make that really integral in the relationship in terms of how school actually works, and giving students that experiential learning experience? I truly do believe that students, we all actually learn our best by doing, right? So I want to give students experiential opportunities to learn. Again, hands-on, hearts on, and minds on, giving students the tools, the opportunity to build things, So I think about everything that just comes with building, right? The math skills that you need, the physics skills that you need. All these things are really what learning looks like. Project-based learning is essentially all these things and more. And also, we want to get kids on boats, right? What would Maritime be without boats? What would Maritime be without allowing students to be able to navigate the rivers, the oceans, and the things of that nature that are surrounding us here in the greater Seattle area? So definitely want to give students this opportunity to get out to the water, to get on boats, to get on vessels. And again, aligning with my value of equity, ensuring that every kid has the access to the high, rigorous learning opportunities that are available that will be at Maritime High School. So really thinking about educational justice. How are we bridging the gap? And how are we bringing those who are furthest away from the education system closer to it? And last but not least, I'll just say, how do we build a relevant experience? So definitely we want to ensure that students are having relative real life applicable experiences as they're doing project-based learnings on a day-to-day basis. So what certifications that are out there in the maritime industry, we want to make sure our kids have opportunities to be prepared to get those certifications, to develop those survival skills, that 21st century skills that they need to flourish in the economic development when it comes to maritime and this industry. So I'm going to actually pause right here and stop sharing my screen. As you can tell, I could keep talking about this in the overview and the vision for on and on and on. But one of the things that I think is really exciting, and I'm really honored to be able to just even introduce this. I think we have an animated video that encapsulates everything when I think about Maritime High School and all that it has to offer. So I'm gonna take a moment to see about queuing up that video, and I want you all to just take a chance to just take it in and just soak it all in.
In Duwamish Valley and the surrounding communities, there are lots of students in public school, just like me. What if there was a new way for us to learn, not just at our desks, but beyond the walls of the classroom? A way that shows us how to use the things we learn in our lives outside of school and in our future careers. A way to connect with our environment and each other. A way to work with our hands and our minds to build a brighter future. Not just for ourselves, but for the whole community and generations to come. What if there was a way to do all that at school? Well, at Maritime High School, there is a way. In fact, the possibilities are endless. Maritime studies are as vast and expansive as the ocean. Imagine marine science projects that allow us to work with the world around us. Climate science projects where we gather important data that support solutions to important problems like stormwater runoff. Imagine engineering projects where we work together to design, build, or even repair a boat. Imagine all of us working together to raise the sails and hit the open sea. Imagine new ways to solve problems that actually make problem solving seem kind of fun. With project-based learning, we're not just working together, we're building a community. From shore-based marine science like studying microplastics and wetland restoration, to boat-based projects like working on engines and radar systems, students at Maritime High School are capable of anything. I know it will take lots of hard work to achieve all of my goals, and there will be ups and downs along the way. But I know I can persevere. Maybe I'll be a college student studying marine engineering. Maybe a captain at the helm of my own ship. Maybe a community leader sharing what I've learned with others. Imagine breaking generational cycles and sailing forward into an innovative future, because anything is possible as long as you can imagine it first. At Maritime High School, we move beyond imagination and into reality. We move beyond the classroom and into the natural world, which gives life to everything we do. We move beyond what's conventional and into what's possible. When tangible skill sets meet real-life opportunities, anything is possible. At Maritime High School, we value inclusion and champion equity, and together, we build community, where everyone is welcome, everyone succeeds.
What an amazing video, right? I saw a lot of comments in the chat here. I felt the same way when I saw that video. It's so exciting, exhilarating, exactly what I'm trying to convey to you all. So hopefully you were able to kind of take that moment in and just to let you know that this was actually an exclusive for you. So I think this is the first time that video was actually shown publicly. So you all got some inside information here. So that was a little treat for you coming out tonight and joining us. All right, let me get back to the slides here. So with all the things to think about when it comes to what we described and what we're expecting and how great and phenomenal we want this school to be, you're probably wondering, okay, how will this be set up? This is a lot to take on. I think that this slide is probably the best slide to really capture everything, what we're thinking about here. So I'll briefly go over it real quickly here. So we want to do a hybrid approach. So I believe that a lot of the things that we've done, even though we've been in remote learning here for over a year now, I truly do believe that there are some components, some strong components per se, that we've gathered or we've learned over the course of this year that can be transferable even when we return back in person eventually here in the fall. And so I have an audacious goal of getting students out into the field, into the industry, or having field experiences at least twice a week. That does not mean that every week students will just be out and about, right? There's some skills, there's some direct instruction that has to happen. So therefore, there will be some conversations, some direct instruction is happening, but I still have that goal because again, it goes back to my belief of ensuring that students have experiential learning experiences and project-based learning. We want to get them out into the field as much as we can. So again, there'll be some direct instruction, but there'll also be some remote learning components as well. We'll be a one-to-one school, so every kid will have a technology device, and they'll be able to utilize that for the remote and online learning purposes. We're also going to offer college credit. We are leaning heavily with University of Washington's program, UW in the high school, with courses that will be offered on our campus that will be taught by our teachers in the junior and senior year for our students. And again, I mentioned earlier, we want to focus on some of that industry certification. So really giving students the opportunity to have the trainings necessary for them to be prepared for specific certifications in the maritime field and the maritime world. So that really encapsulates everything here in regards to how the school will be set up. Something else I want to highlight also is really in line with my value of equity. So for me, I tend to be probably the most authentic and transparent person that you will ever meet. And I typically, I'm really excited about this particular portion of our school and how we do this, because when it comes to project-based learning, we also want to make sure that our kids are getting the opportunities that they need to be successful in their post-secondary options or post-secondary opportunities that they want to have. So for me, I think about our transcript, and we're utilizing an alternative transcript at our school that will allow students to really share their full story, and they will not be reduced to just a letter or a number. I believe that the education system in itself was not started for people who look like me or people who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And so also I believe that the traditional transcript subscribes to the status quo of white supremacy culture. And so to break down those barriers here, we're utilizing an alternative transcript, the mastery transcript, that has actually been used by over 300 schools across the world. Lakeside School, the Bush School here in Seattle uses it. There's about 11 other schools in the state of Washington that use this particular transcript. Every student who has used this transcript has gotten into their school of choice. It is truly a narrative feedback, proficiency feedback based transcript. And so this really allows a student to tell their story of their learning as they matriculated through high school. So I'm really thrilled about this innovative way of thinking and innovative way of showing mastery in terms of essential standards and concepts. All right, so I'll end there in terms of presentation. So hopefully that was a little bit of information, and that will help you out a little bit, and you can understand more about how we are doing Maritime High School and all the overview that we do have. So thank you for allowing me to share that information with you, and we'll talk a little bit more about this throughout the night, throughout this evening. So I think the next thing that's up is we do have, I see a familiar face here on the screen that I'm excited to see from the State Board of Education. And so we have a little bit of a highlight reel that we want to share with you all. And I have to give a lot of kudos to Bernard Kuntz. I know he's here. I saw him on the screen a little bit earlier. He's worked diligently throughout this entire year in terms of ensuring that Maritime High School opens this fall. And he's done a lot of work in the background to make sure that we get this up and running. So I have to give him a lot of kudos. And him and I tag team a presentation for the state school, for the school board to ensure that we're able to utilize the transcript and get a waiver to really open up the school. So I want to make sure I gave him his flowers while he's here. And so you'll be able to see this highlight reel of the reactions of our state school board members here pretty shortly. So I'll allow, I think Lynn is going to cue this up for us, okay?
My enthusiasm I wanted to share as well as somebody who nearly 30 years ago in graduate school wrote a program for boat design to be used in high schools. I really am appreciative of this.
You know, what a tremendous job you guys have done. And I think other industries like tech can learn from you guys. So thank you guys so much for doing this great work, and we'll look forward to continuing seeing it grow.
We've heard the stories from students that have come and presented to us that, you know, students that were disengaged from school or students that were really honestly like probably, you know, they self-admittingly were gonna drop out. These experiences changed their whole life.
My one comment is I need to clone you. I want this everywhere, and what you're doing is phenomenal. I think you're on the right track, doing the right things, being bold and innovative, and I absolutely love it.
So you probably saw a familiar face there. You might see him on the screen here also. I have an opportunity here to have a conversation with the wonderful, amazing Mr. Harriam Martin Morris, who's here with us tonight, Washington State School Board member. So thrilled to have a conversation with you in front of the folks that's in the audience tonight. So I hope you're ready and prepared for it as well, Mr.
As
Morris.
ready as I can be.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll keep it short. So I had a chance to connect with you, obviously, here, and we know your enthusiasm and excitement that came out in the highlight reel. But it will be good to maybe share like some brief bio about yourself, or some brief information about you. What connects you to the maritime industry? So really just, give us a chance to see a little bit or hear more from you about who you are and what your connection is to the maritime industry.
So I actually started out as an elementary school teacher, and I've also taught middle school and high school. When we my wife and I moved to Seattle in 1991, my first job was actually in the maritime industry. I worked for a seafood company called Arctic Alaska. They are catchers and processors of seafood in the Bering Sea, and knew nothing. I came from Boston. I was an IT guy, and here I was literally hanging out on tugboats and break bulk ships and things that I didn't even know what a break bulk ship was when I first moved here. Fast forward a couple of years, I wound up becoming the general manager of a steamship line, managing 3 container ships that ran between Seattle and Far East Russia. And so but hanging out in Ballard 7 days a week, you learn about the maritime industry pretty darn quickly. And so what I saw from that was that's a great launching pad for all kinds of things. After I left the industry, I wound up working for Boeing. And ironically, a lot of the people that I worked with in Boeing came from the maritime industry. Some of them went to the Merchant Marine Academy. The connection between boats and airplanes are pretty strong, especially when you talk about the building of them and superstructure, and all of the skills that are necessary to build an airplane are the same skills you need to build a boat. And so all of those things kind of melded together. So that, for me, it became organic. It was kind of by accident, but I learned an awful lot.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Morris. I want to ask you maybe two more questions, and then we'll, again, like I mentioned before, we could probably talk all day. It's, you know, this man has a lot of wisdom and a lot of amazing stories as well. So my next question for you, when we talked earlier this week, you made a comment about, which was very profound. You said, be bold or go home. So it made me think about this question. And so tell me why you believe in this so much. Tell me why you believe in the Maritime High School or project-based learning so much.
Because project-based learning and mastery-based learning are going to provide our students with the skills that they're going to need, regardless of where they wind up. I mean, yes, a student may go to the Maritime Academy, but that doesn't mean they'll go into the maritime industry, but the skills are transferable into any industry, into anything they want to do. And that's where my enthusiasm comes from, is because it's skills-based, it's mastery-based. It's not sitting in a seat for X number of minutes and taking some paper and pencil tests and saying, you're good enough to go out into the world, go ahead. You don't have the skills to do anything when you do it that way. This is real world. This is, I'm going to give you the things you need, regardless of the industry, regardless of anything, that you will be able to be well equipped to be successful at whatever you choose.
Awesome. It's so great to hear the passion in your voice. So it's so thrilling. It's just like how the video was. We hear that passion in your voice. Last question I'll ask you, and then we'll wrap this up, okay, Hariam? This one's selfish for me. So what advice would you give to a founding principal that's starting a school that's PBL?
Well, I think when we talked, that's where that comment about be bold. Don't be afraid. Don't try to replicate what others have done, because that hasn't worked for all of the kids that really need it. So that's why I said, be bold or go home. So either we're going to do this, we're going to do it, and again, focus on kids and what kids need. And that's where I see the Maritime Academy's strength, is that this is very student focused. And by doing that and staying engaged and having those relationships, students can't help but be successful. And so the advice is the things that you already know how to do. Build relationships. Think about what skills do I want to transport to my students, so that when they move on, they'll be ready and equipped to handle whatever happens, and to teach a little bit of emotional resilience, because there will be things that will be hard. So how do you teach that? Just through experience, relating to students, saying, look, when we started this, I got knocked down a couple of times too, but I got back up and I moved on.
Wise words there. So that's a great way to end. Thank you so much, Hariam, for sharing the stage with me and giving me that advice too.
Right, it looks like it is on to us. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Maggie Angel. I am the community organizer of the Duwamish River Cleanup Coalition, and it is my pleasure to be here aside one of our amazing partners. Stephanie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So hello, everybody. My name is Stephanie Burns. I am the Northwest Maritime Center project manager for the Maritime High School. And it's really great and wonderful to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about community, which has been touched on already. And I just want to take a moment and just thank everyone for being here. This is really extraordinary. This is community. Seeing folks who I recognize, having Tremaine, who's somebody I've gotten to know over the last several months, sort of speak towards this vision that we have around this Maritime High School, and seeing faces and names that I don't know yet, as we say. So I just want to thank everyone for being here and for supporting this endeavor and this this vision for this Maritime High School. And as Tremaine shared, this school is a project-based learning school. And as he alluded to, I do refer to PBL, or project-based learning, as learning-based projects, because the emphasis really is on the learning. It is on the youth, who they are, what we want them to learn, what support they need in order to learn the things they need to learn to be successful beyond the walls of that classroom. So I really want to, and we could also really easily call it community-based learning as well. And the reason why community-based learning is because community is key. What happens in a classroom can be really inspiring and it can be really relevant, but it's community and the connection to that community that brings this to life for our youth. It helps answer the why, right? How many times have you sat in a classroom and said, why does this matter? Why do I need to be here? What does this have to do with me? Project-based learning or learning-based projects or community-based learning answers those questions, and it connects those students to the authentic purpose and meaning behind that learning. And for me, it's really that idea of when we allow students to understand what meaning there is to the work that they're doing in school, it means that we help them understand what a meaningful career might look like, or what it looks like to follow that trajectory or that path to a meaningful career. So I know that I want to let Maggie share a little bit about community as well, and what happens when we bring community into a school like this, and when we blur those lines between community and school.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, community is an important aspect of any type of school or anything in general. So I think our executive director, Paulina Lopez, did an awesome job at the beginning, describing a little bit about how our youth from the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps and how our community in the Duwamish Valley were really eager to have an opportunity like this. And when I say this, I talk about the importance of community partners in projects like the Maritime High School. And as DRCC, we are a community partner with this Maritime High School. And for us, that's really important because that means we're being more inclusive. We're being inclusive in all those students that are coming in and that are gonna take part of this opportunity. And when I was talking to Stephanie, when I talk to other folks, I talk about how new the Maritime, just the word, right? Just the word is to our community members. So many times with our youth and with our community members, we go around giving boat tours on the Duwamish River, which is right behind me. And we talk about the historical of the Duwamish River, the tribe, and the industries around. And we always have people like, oh, what is happening on those docks? Like, what are those ships doing? And, it's just people really curious. But now that we're associating all of these jobs into maritime, it's really exciting because our youth are finally going to get that experience, are finally going to get that opportunity to be able to attend a high school that could prepare them for a career that they might enjoy better than what maybe a university or some of their parents, offer them or what they know about. So this is really exciting, and it's really important for community organizers and community organizations in general to be part of this, because we have those relationships with those community members. We have worked really hard and work aside our community members to build that trust, that comfort, and allow us to build that connection with them. So now that DRCC is a partner, we're really excited because we're finally being able to introduce the maritime industry to our youth and especially to our community members. So there's a lot more to say, but we are running out of time. So we're going to move forward with introducing who we have for break rooms, who will be leading. So let's go ahead and do that, Stephanie.
Great. Thanks so much, Maggie. So as Maggie said, it's time to connect with some of our community members. So over the last several months, I've had some incredible conversations with folks who are really invested in this Maritime High School. And I am hopeful, sort of optimistic that they will continue to support this high school, not just for this first year, but for many, many years to come. And so we're going to introduce some of those folks now. So the first one, and just to give folks an idea of what's going to happen, I'm going to introduce, or Maggie and I are going to introduce the breakout rooms, which you will be able to select which one you want to hop into and hear a little bit more from this individual. So we'll introduce the folks first. You'll then see a notification pop up. If you don't see it, you should scroll down the bottom of your screen and it'll be able to allow you to join which room you want to go into, okay? So, and if you have questions or any technical hiccups when that happens, just hang out here and we will make sure that we get you to where you want to go. So without any further ado, first person we'd like to introduce is Nam Su. He is a restoration biologist for Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife and a former marine scientist with a place that is near and dear to my heart, Salish Sea Expeditions.
Awesome. And then in room 2, we have Eleanor Kirtley from Green Marine, Senior Program Manager.
We then next have Delmas Whitaker. Delmas is the Senior Manager of Fishing and Commercial Vessel Services for the Port of Seattle.
And coming up, we have Mia and Joanna Rodriguez as the first 2 teachers hired for the Maritime High School. They will share their perspectives on the importance of community partners.
Woohoo, new teachers. We also have Thomas Barrett, who is representative from Manson Construction. He's the Director of Learning and Development.
Awesome. And then the next room, we have Joe Trump in the MBA and civil engineering student at UW, and also a lieutenant in the Coast Guard. And as he graduates, he will be involved in the maritime construction for the Coast Guard across the Pacific Rim.
From Crowley, we have Ernie Ramos. He's the Operations Integrity Manager.
And also coming up, we have Brent, but I can't pronounce your last name, I'm sorry, but works in sustainable agriculture for Washington Sea Grant.
And last but not least, a wonderful, amazing woman, Sarah Shear, is from the city of Seattle. She has a long-running connection to maritime world that has led her to the city of Seattle Office of Economic Development, where she is the maritime and manufacturing advocate.
Wow, what an event, right? Are you all as inspired as I am? I'm Leanne Schrato, and I'm so excited to be here with you tonight as we celebrate the launch of the Maritime High School. As a commission specialist for the Port of Seattle Commission, I provide policy and direct staff support to folks like Commissioner Calkins, who you got to meet just a little while ago, and his fellow commissioners, who I believe are also in attendance this evening. Perhaps Commissioners Fred Felleman, Sam Cho, Peter Steinbrook, and Stephanie Bowman. Thanks if you're on with us tonight. I also serve as the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Liaison for the Commission Office. It's a pretty awesome job, and I'm not just saying that because all my bosses are here. My job enables me to support the vision and priorities of our elected Port Commission. And when Commissioner Calkins shared his vision for a Maritime High School with me back in 2018, I couldn't wait to get to work. This work has been one of the most inspiring experiences of my entire professional career. It's provided me with the opportunity to work alongside many of the amazing people who you've already heard from tonight. It's also provided me with exciting personal opportunities, like becoming a member of the board of directors for the Northwest Maritime Center. When I was first approached about joining the board, it kind of caught me off guard. Yeah, I've worked for the Port of Seattle for almost 7 years, but I'm no maritime expert by any stretch of the imagination. I grew up in Phoenix. I'd never been on a ferry before coming to Seattle. No one in my family sails or owns a boat, and my mom doesn't even know how to swim. Why would someone like me serve on a board like this? I found myself in this place of, I don't know, self-doubt or insecurity, wanting to belong somewhere, but not quite sure if I do. And I think that this place of questioning whether you belong somewhere occurs when historically people like you haven't been where you want to be. And then I had a moment kind of like what we saw in that Pixar level, Don't Watch Without a Kleenex animation. And I thought, why not? What if? What if? So I said yes, and I joined the board, and this longtime desert dweller will be participating in our first board meeting this weekend. Now, I share all that with you, wondering if you saw the same parallel that I did. I actually asked Maritime Center Executive Director Jake Beatty when I was approached about joining, how does a brown girl from the desert end up on a maritime board? It's the same question we had in mind when we began trying to make this school a reality. How do we show youth in our community who live alongside the Duwamish, who have never had an opportunity to learn about the barges that sail in and out every week? Where do those barges go? How do we show youth in South King County who have never been on a ferry or a sailboat what it feels like to have the sea breeze rush over you as you take in the beauty of the Puget Sound? We asked ourselves, what if? What if we gave our youth the opportunity to see themselves as if they belonged where they may not have even know they might want to be? The Maritime High School has been built on doing just that. It answers those questions. Sorry, I just messed up my notes here. If you're a parent who's considering sending your child to the school, if you are in the maritime industry, an elected official, an educator, a student, ask yourself, what if you could see yourself or your child or your employer or your community engaged with this school? What would it look like? What kind of impact could that engagement have? If you are at all inspired by what you've learned tonight, then I urge you to get on board and set sail with us. You see, now I'm working on my maritime lingo there. This school is pretty awesome, and the folks running it are pretty awesome too. And we all have an opportunity to help lay the foundation for this school, for these students, and for our community. They'll need our support for this first year and in the years ahead, and I hope we can count on you. Thank you again for being here tonight. Thank you to all of our speakers and to everyone who helped put the event together. I think the folks running the show here are going to put up some information into the chat to let you know how you can continue to be engaged, how you can remain committed, continue to be inspired, and continue to try and inspire the next generation. Thank you.